Kyle King was once a fan favorite on Teen Mom, but he basically disappeared after he and Maci Bookout called it quits. Ever since then, his life has taken some surprisingly drastic and dramatic turns. From new relationships to big moves to shocking breakup, everything that's happened to Kyle since he left MTV over 10 years ago is honestly unbelievable. The last time we saw Kyle on Teen Mom was during the season 4 reunion, which exposed some explosive information. Maci claimed that she had broken up with Kyle after discovering that he had been inappropriately messaging other women on social media. I feel like the main reason why we were all sad about their split was because of how good Kyle was with Maci's son Bentley. But obviously, Kyle and Maci just weren't meant to be. Kyle had seemed incredibly checked out toward the end of his relationship with Maci, as we saw in season 4. I don't think anyone was terribly shocked by their breakup revelation, but little did we know Kyle wasn't totally out of the picture yet. A source close to Maci spilled the tea to OK Magazine, and what they revealed was absolutely crazy. According to what the insider told the publication, Maci and Kyle actually started rekindling their romance in May 2012. So just 2 months after the reunion special was filmed, I guess both of them had a total change of heart. Allegedly, Maci and Kyle jumped right back into living together again, which unfortunately led to a very predictable relationship update. By the fall of 2012, sarcasm reported that the couple had finally broken up for the last time. They supposedly been on and off again for several weeks because they realized they still didn't have the same goals for the future. I can't help but wonder if Kyle and Maci's breakup was peaceful or not. They didn't seem to be in contact anymore, even as friends, and they don't follow each other on social media either. I'm sure Maci is probably relieved now that she wasn't able to convince Kyle to have a baby with her to cure her boredom. Shortly after their split, Kyle started focusing on his business and teamed up with someone seriously unexpected. Kyle switched gears and started working on developing more of his clothing line, Cold Nature. Interestingly enough, Maci's baby daddy Ryan had just been dumped by his girlfriend Dallas Connell at around the same time. I don't think Kyle or Dallas ever publicly explained what made them decide to do what they did next, but it was completely bizarre. Dallas ended up modeling for a photo shoot to promote Kyle's clothing line, which I'm sure would have been enough to annoy both Maci and Ryan on its own. But the fact that Dallas was only wearing a Cold Nature tank top and her underwear probably made it way worse. I'm not sure if Kyle and Dallas were trying to spark some jealousy in their exes or if the photo shoot was just weirdly coincidental, but what they hinted at next was totally insane. Kyle and Dallas started getting super flirty with each other over Twitter a few weeks after the photo shoot. I think everyone was curious about whether or not they were actually together, but even if they had tried to date, it clearly didn't lead to anything serious. In the early part of 2013, Kyle used Instagram to sneakily share some astonishing news. Kyle started occasionally posting photos of himself with Kendall Withrow, who he eventually announced was his girlfriend, but Kyle was sharing even more photos of another part of his life. It looked like he'd been spending a lot of his time and energy on a very impressive lifestyle change. It became obvious from Kyle's Instagram post that he was super dedicated to his fitness journey. I'm pretty sure that for as many photos as he shared of his friends during their nights out, there was just as many photos of his shredded muscles. And judging from his girlfriend's social media, they matched perfectly. She was working full-time as a dance instructor, and their active, happy lives seemed peacefully quiet for quite a while. Kyle has never really revealed a whole lot of his personal information online, but a couple of his Instagram posts around 2014 dropped some mind-boggling clues. Based on the lack of Cold Nature updates after that year, Kyle had seemingly stopped trying to make his clothing line a major success. But that's not all. Apparently, Kyle still participated in motocross occasionally, which wasn't too surprising. I'm pretty sure on Teen Mom, it was shared that he'd been riding dirt bikes since he was really young. Kyle also appeared to be working at King Heating and Air, his family's business. But the craziest updates happened the following year, and you're never going to believe how significantly his life changed. In June 2015, Kyle announced that he and Kendall were engaged. He shared a few snaps of the ring and proposal, and I think everyone could see that he and his new fiancée were so happy together. Thousands of Kyle's followers had reacted to the post, and I didn't think it was possible for them to be more excited for him. That is until a week later when he dropped another completely shocking revelation. Believe it or not, the newly engaged couple was also expecting their first baby. Kyle shared 2 posts of Kendall with a small but noticeable baby bump, and I was blown away by the second picture's caption. Kyle revealed that he and Kendall were going to have a baby boy. Considering how well he adapted to his stepdad role with Bentley a few years earlier, I think everyone was thrilled for him to have his own son. And just a few months later, that finally became a reality. In November, Kyle and Kendall welcomed baby Crew to the world, but apparently the couple's good news streak wasn't over yet. On top of getting engaged and adding a son to their family, Kendall and Kyle had another huge update to share, but this time the announcement included several other people, and it was almost unbelievable. In June 2016, Kendall told her social media followers that her little family was moving, but when she shared the rest of the details on the update, I was in complete awe. Not only were they moving, but so were Kendall's siblings and their families as well. The entire group had put an offer on a 50-acre farm in Nashville, and it had just been accepted. I can't even imagine how exciting that must have been for them. Each of the little families were planning on building their own homes on the property. They would all be neighbors, and their kids would be able to grow up right next to their cousins. It was a really busy year for Kyle and Kendall, but astonishingly enough, there was another update just a few weeks later. This was honestly amazing. Kyle and Kendall got married in July 2016, and their ceremony looked incredible. But after Kyle shared a few wedding photos, he seemingly stopped sharing as much on social media. I'm not sure if having Having a young child caused him to be more private online, but he definitely didn't update his followers as often as he used to. Obviously, he didn't have to share anything at all, but it was just kind of odd. Over the next few years, I think at least half of Kyle's posts consisted of throwback photos. As for the rest of his updates, almost all of them were about Kendall and crew. But in February 2018, he finally shared a few more remarkable details about his home life. One of Kyle's fascinating Instagram posts revealed that he was working at Alternative Energy Products in Nashville. According to the company's website, they supply mulch and different types of soil. And what I could tell from Kyle's photos, it looked like he was in charge of operating the agriculture machinery. But as interesting as it was to find out what he did to provide for his family, Kyle's other post was even more intriguing. Kyle and Kendall were expecting baby number 2 to arrive in the summer, and they already knew their upcoming addition would be another boy. Based on the occasional updates about his family outings and how proud he was of crew, I'm guessing that Kyle was ecstatic to have another son. In August 2018, he and his wife welcomed their newest baby, Cohen, to the world. But after that, something pretty unexpected happened. Just like when after crew was born, Kyle seemingly stopped sharing big family updates. He actually posted even less this time around though. I have a feeling part of that was due to being busy with 2 young kids and his day-to-day life. Kyle still shared some photos of his son here and there, but many of his posts were just old pictures of him or the boys. It honestly wasn't until January 2020 that he let his followers in on more information, and this update wasn't family related, surprisingly. Kyle had apparently gone to Kentucky to race in a pit bike competition. Judging from the photos, it looked like he had a good time. But still, there were barely any details on the race on his Instagram, and eventually the posts of his son started becoming even less frequent. It seemed like Kyle really preferred keeping to himself, and I can't say I blame him after he was on MTV for a couple of years. But this is why I was absolutely taken aback by what he shared the following year. Almost out of nowhere, Kyle totally stunned his followers with an unbelievable announcement in November 2021. In the caption of his photo, he revealed that he and Kendall had just welcomed their 3rd son, Kai. Now they had 3 boys, 6 years old and under, and I'm sure their hands were so full. Kyle and his family must have been extremely busy because there were barely any posts for a while. In fact, he didn't share any posts on his Instagram from May 2022 to just recently in the middle of March. Sadly, I have a feeling that some of his 10-month-long silence was because of an unfortunate life change for the whole family. Kyle and Kendall are no longer following each other on social media, and it seems like they're not even together anymore. A few months ago, Kendall changed her relationship status on Facebook, and she's now dating a different guy. Kyle hasn't said anything about his current relationship status, but that really doesn't surprise me. He also hasn't mentioned being divorced or separated, which makes me feel like his increased privacy is seriously important to him. But it'll be interesting to see if he starts posting more often now that he's at least somewhat active again on social media. Even though a lot of Kyle's life is kind of a mystery right now, it's still clear that a lot has changed since his MTV days with Maci. But what do you guys think about all this? What are your thoughts on Kyle's life since we last saw him on MTV? Are you surprised by how much has changed?